students, thanks for joining me today. If you're here, you're needing help with the Solve Quadratic Equations B. We're going to go over number 1 first, and then hopefully you'll be able to do a few of these on your own. To begin with, we do have a quadratic because our highest exponent value is 2 or squared. Then the next thing we need to recognize is that this equation is not set equal to 0. And generally speaking, you want to set quadratic equations to 0 to solve. So this one has a 1 here. And really, I need that 1 to be right there. So I can find the value that makes that 1 0, which would be -1, and then I can add or put or place a -1 on both sides. I get a 0 pair here, and then here puts a -1 in the equation. And I can't combine, add, or subtract -1 with any other quantity in here because they don't have a like term. So it stands alone by itself. So now I have 35n squared minus 2n minus 1 equals 0. It's in quadratic. It is a quadratic. It's in standard form, and I need to factor it. And the way I do that is I put my parentheses here. It's basically the opposite of FOIL. I am finding the two quantities that when multiplied together will give me this back. And so what I know is that this term is found by multiplying the two first terms together. So we know that's either got to be a 7 and 5 or 35 and 1. And we know that this term is found by multiplying these two things together. So lucky for us, the only two numbers that multiply together for 1 are 1 and 1. The next thing I have to do is I have to decide whether I want 35 and 1 or 7 and 5 to go here. And since I know a little bit about quadratics, I know that these numbers have to combine together to give me a -2, and I'm going to have a better chance of that with a 7 and a 5 than I would with a 35 and 1. The next thing I need to do is think about where I need to put a plus or a minus sign to get all of this correct. So this middle term right here is made by multiplying my two outside terms, which give me 7n, and multiplying my two inside terms, which give me a 5n, and then combining them together, adding or subtracting. In this case, I need a -2n, so I know that negatives has to go with the 7, and my 5 is positive. And so now I need to make sure that that happens. And so what I want to do is I'm going to put my negative here and a positive here, and then walk myself through the multiplication and make sure it's right. So 7n and 5n, sorry, I keep hitting my pen, the cursor on my pen. 7n and 5n do give me 35n squared, plus 1 and a minus 1 do give me -1. And then when I multiply a plus 5 and a plus 1, I get a positive 5. A positive 7 and a -1, and I get a -7. And when I combine those together, I get a -2. So I know I've factored this correctly. Now, the last step in the quadratic is setting each one of these factors equal to 0, oopsies, and solving. And so I need to subtract 1 from both sides. I need to divide by 7. And I've got n equals -1 over 7. Here I need to add 1, and 0 plus 1 just still leaves me that 1, and I need to divide by 5 so that n equals 1/5. And you normally see this written together, separated by a comma. And this is your answer. If you missed any of this explanation, don't hesitate to rewind or pause or go back to the part or just watch it over altogether. It really will help you. Thanks for joining me.